Hello, my name is Corinne Smith, and I'm the sales manager for the William S. Haynes Flute Company. On behalf of Haynes and our fantastic partner, the premier Canadian dealer of Haynes Flutes, Long & McQuaid, I want to thank you all for joining us today as we highlight one of the most prestigious artists on our roster, Canadian flutist Sue Hoeppner. Sue is an established soloist and chamber musician who has performed all over the world. Her recordings and her commitment to performing new and exciting works by Canadian composers have received critical acclaim. She can be heard frequently on Canada's national broadcaster, on CBC Radio 2, Classical 96.3 FM, on live Bravo TV broadcasts, and Galaxy TV radio. Sue graduated from the Juilliard School in New York, where she studied with the renowned flutist Julius Baker, and now, as an esteemed mentor herself, is on faculty at the Royal Conservatory of Music's Gould School and the University of Toronto. In 2012, Sue became a part of the William S. Haynes family of artists when she fell in love with her 14-karat gold custom flute, white gold head joint, and 18-karat gold riser. The Haynes Company was and is still extremely honored to have Sue as a part of our family and to feature her here today. Thank you again to Long & McQuaid for hosting this event, and thank you to Sue for all you do for the flute community in Canada and beyond. Thank you all again for attending, and I hope you enjoy the event.
Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to this. This is my first live performance in over a year, so I'm feeling a little bit nervous, but I'd like to welcome you all and so happy to be here tonight. This is an unusual setup for me, so I know you're watching it, but it's just unusual. I'm going to just talk. What I'd like to say, first of all, is this is the Haynes University series and the classes, and I play this gorgeous Haynes flute. It's got white gold, rose gold, some 18-karat something else gold. It's really beautiful. And I know people have asked me in the past about silver versus gold, and it really is a personal preference. Silver, anyway, we can talk about that more. What I'd like to also tell you is that I'd really welcome some questions, anything that you would like to ask, really about anything. It's okay, about the flute or music, in anything in general. I just wanted to say that basically, like what I like to speak about with this class is finding your own voice. Finding what is it that sets you apart as a musician. And I've asked this question a number of times of my students, and I'd like you to ask yourself this question tonight, and I want you to answer yourself. And the question is, what is my greatest strength? Because and I find that people are just kind of speechless. They don't have an answer for this question. So this is something that is a really great way to start, because we know all the weaknesses, we know all the things we need to work on. And if you can start with something really encouraging and positive and saying, I do this really well, identify it, and then we just need to keep working on all the other stuff. So I'm a detail person. I love, there's so much that can be done even just on one note. All of a sudden, someone can be playing, and then all of a sudden it's just a little, ooh, a beauty moment. You know, it's details like that I think can really set a person apart as a musician. Now, I don't know if we have I have a feeling that we have all sorts of musicians on this, watching this live stream. Maybe not just flute players, but we're all in the same boat when it comes to thinking about music, not just the instrument, but the music itself. So like I said, I really welcome some questions. If you have anything you want to ask me about, here I am. Go ahead and ask. So how to make an impression on people, a good positive impression. Keep in mind that the first note you play, even if it's a tuning note, is the first impression note. So everything that comes out of your instrument, everything that you put into the instrument and is heard. It's like if you're on stage and tuning, that's the first note that's heard. So make it good. Make it really good. So that's what I'm about. Just really paying attention to details and making it special. Setting yourself apart, making something unique. Try to be creative and not just go the one way that you have been told. Maybe try another direction. And in other words, just challenge yourself. Challenging yourself is a really helpful thing because it gets you out of your comfort zone. And we all love to be in our comfort zone. I love to be in my comfort zone. None of us likes to leave our comfort zone. But that's how you will get better. That's how you will learn things. You'll discover. And if you actually are starting to look for something, if you're starting to discover something, or if you're starting to look for it, you'll find it. But if we just stay in that easygoing, knowing how to do everything and everything just feels good and, just what you do well and you just stick with that, then we can get kind of boxed in a bit, and just going a little bit outside the boundaries is a great thing. Now, there's a really good question here. How do you stay motivated and practice during COVID? I guess that's an excellent question because it is true. We're all, for lack of a better word, stuck in our places. And I think I have such a love of music that it's usually not hard. But I do have my days, maybe even a week, where I really don't want to practice. I just want to do anything but. And you know what? I think because we're musicians, because we're at this every day, I remember many, many years ago thinking to myself, making the realization that I'm going to be doing this for the rest of my life. I'm going to be having to practice for the rest of my life. So we need breaks. We need to have some kind of mental break, physical break. But to keep motivated in this, I think what would be a great idea, and I just was saying earlier about challenging yourself, challenging oneself, to take out some repertoire, a book that you've not looked through before, and you want to just start sight reading the music. Or maybe, like, let's say, for example, etudes. If there's an etude book, we've all done pieces from the etude book, but not like the whole thing through. That could be a goal. That could be something fun. Many times, I'm not motivated necessarily to practice, but I have to keep my self-performance ready. So what I do is I shake up my routine a lot. And I'll start with one exercise one day. I'll start with another one the next day and sort of move them around. If I always started with the same one and went through the same routine, that can get very dry. And so I guess staying motivated. I love looking at new repertoire. I've got a great music library, and there's a lot of pieces in my music library I've discovered since I have alphabeticalized it. Oh, that's one thing I did during COVID at the beginning. I alphabeticalized my music, both the piano scores and the flute parts. And there was a lot of stuff in there I hadn't played. So it's exciting to try new music. Now we have the time for that, you know? So I guess we have to really self-motivate and I think remember why we're doing this. We love it. We really, really love it. So what would I do to maintain practice if I can't access my flute due to COVID? That's a tough one because we want the physical instrument, but there's, it's very important to have the physical part of the instrument, but when you can't, I don't know how much time you're talking about, but reading the music mentally, literally reading it like a book. I look at the music, I hear the pitches. I don't have perfect pitch, but we can just look at it and read it like you would a book. And I think that would be very helpful if you don't have the instrument. When you do have the instrument and you come to that piece or those pieces, you'll already have a very good idea of what's there. You won't have to be relying on the fingers. It's already here in your mind. So I hope that would help somewhat. But we do need the instrument in order to work it out physically. But I have to tell you the importance, everybody, the incredible importance of mental practice. We really don't give it enough credit, and it's huge. It's huge. This is maybe a little bit of it. Most of it is here. Do you pick up any other instruments to play to shake the boundaries of comfortable? That's a good question. I started playing started playing the piano, and it's always been a very awkward instrument for me. I love it. I absolutely love it, and that's why I would practice it. But I wasn't good at it. I wasn't naturally. There wasn't a natural ease with the piano, but it definitely takes me out of my comfort zone. I used to do some guitar for fun, but I haven't done that in so long, but I like that idea. Yeah, try another instrument. Why not? Go to Long and McQuaid. Rent anything you would never have thought of doing. That would be cool. That would be cool. Does thinking about the story you're telling while playing improve the quality of your performance? I don't really necessarily think about a story for myself when I'm performing. I think I have worked it through so much that it's not about the story so much. The story is for other people to decide what they get from it. But I think what I do is I'm thinking about the feelings and the emotions and the colors and all that. And so putting all that together when I'm performing on stage, which I miss so much. That's what I think about. And I just hope we all get the opportunity to do that soon. Oh my goodness. So what 3 things would you like to see beginning students learn early in their career? What 3 things would I like to see? Well, I'd like to see, just lost the word, just someone who's enthusiastic, someone who's really enthusiastic to learn it. Posture, learning right away what correct posture is, because that's going to help you throughout your career as a beginner flutist. That's so the posture, hand position, just making sure that that's all correct. You don't have any damage to your physical body. And then what other things would I like to see? Oh, I don't know. I guess maybe that they could get the best possible instrument to play on. At that level, you know, just the best instrument you possibly can, because it's difficult enough anyway. And the better the instrument you have, the easier it is to learn than if you're struggling on an instrument that is, you know, even I can't get a sound out of. I've tried this before, and it's like I don't understand how the person even got a note, because I tried the flute and I can't even get a note out of this. So a good instrument, okay? I hope those things help. What are some ways to get involved in orchestra coming from high school concert band? To get involved in orchestra, well, let me see. Coming from high school band, I would like to, there are always community orchestras in every local area and around. Like there's tons of them. And there's a lot of adults who are in this orchestra, who are amateur players, and or maybe they're a doctor or they're a lawyer, and they just love playing music. You know, it's a really great outlet. So community orchestras are something really good to look at. I guess also when we're able to go to concerts again, to go to as many as you can. So I guess right now online, you could probably go to many more concerts than you can live. So just try and listen to as many as you can, and try and, I guess if you're thinking about an orchestral career, that's something I started a solo career. So I didn't go for the orchestral route, but that would be my advice. Community orchestras first. Also, introduce yourself to any of the people in the orchestra. Introduce yourself, ask for a lesson, ask them to hear you play. Maybe they'll love it and say, hey, we'll put you on the list if you can come play for us. And, you know, if someone is sick or something like that. So that's also another opportunity. What do you play for your warm-up? Do you have any advice on how to expand the use of the vibrato? Well, interesting. I just gave a class yesterday. No, yesterday? Yesterday. We all lose track of days, right? In these months during this year. On vibrato. I have a monthly masterclass, online masterclass that I give. And just yesterday I was talking about all the uses of vibrato. So I just want to say it very broadly, because I was saying it in very detailed form yesterday, but vibrato is something that gives expression, it gives color, it gives direction, and all these things. We just want to think about adding vibrato. When you play a note just straight and then you add some vibrato to it, there's warmth in there. There's color and warmth. So think about just trying to add that into your playing, because it really does make a huge difference. And what do I play for my warm-up? Well, I have a bunch of different things that I do. I guess depending on how I'm feeling, if I'm like super energetic when I just start playing, I'll just dive right into the technique. And if I'm kind of, you know, it's a slow going kind of thing, I'll just start with some tone. And again, a number, like many different exercises. There are the go-to, excuse me, the go-tos of Marcel Moïse, de la Sonorte, the Taffanel and Gobert 17 daily exercises, the scales written by Jeffrey Gilbert, and et cetera, et cetera. So there's so I guess I warm up for as long as I might have, and then go into pieces. But we all need to stretch and warm up, just like dancers, athletes. We have to get our muscles, whether it's here for the flute or whether it's here for the arms or anything. So it's very important to get, limber. And do I play jazz music? And if I do, what? I really wish. I love jazz. I love jazz so much. And I have to say, I had a very special friendship with the flutist Mo Kaufman. And he was very supportive of me, and he used to call it, he came to my concerts, and I would go hear him play at George's Spaghetti House and back in the days. And we even got together to play Telemann duets because he wanted to play some legit playing. And I'm just saying that that's a fun story because he never, with jazz, he always thought he wasn't doing well enough, that he wanted to play more classically. And I said, no, do what you're doing. Like, they're two different languages, aren't they? Classical and jazz. And I have to say, it was fascinating to play some Telemann duets with Mo Kaufman and hearing him play them with his jazz articulation and me with my classical articulation, kind of square. It was a lot of fun. So I know I don't play it. It's like I said, it's another language, but I enjoy it so much. Well, hey, Patricia, what are your favorite go-to composers or pieces when motivation is a challenge? Bach. That just came to me. Bach. I play through the sonatas. If I don't have any motivation at all, or I don't even want to practice, I want to keep in shape or maintenance, I go to the Bach sonatas. I go to the Bach violin sonatas that are transcribed for flute. I don't have this book, but I know that there are also the cello suites that are transcribed for flute. And the partita, and I play through Bach, and I play through some Telemann. And so I guess it's really, Bach is my go-to composer, for sure. But I have to say probably the Baroque style too, because it's just, you keep playing, and the air keeps moving through you. And when I finish playing Bach, I feel like I've had a bit of warming of my soul. That sounds so hokey, but it's absolutely true. It just feels so complete. So that's what I like to do. What tips do you have for flute players going into university? Well, as a joke, I would say, of course, practice, because that's the obvious. I would say right away, support everybody that's at support your class. Be a good colleague. Be supportive, because you give that, you're going to get that back. And these are people that you're going to have in your life. I treasure the friendships I have with the people I went to school with from Juilliard. We're still in touch, many of us. And it's like a family. It really is. So I would say be supportive and encouraging to your colleagues. And then, of course, practice your butt off. Just, you know what? There's one other thing. Be a great student. And you know how you can be a great student? I love this kind of student. Someone who thinks. Someone who asks a question. It means you're thinking. And it excites me because it means that we can discuss something. I'm not just like telling things. In fact, many times I withhold my information, and I have my students, I ask them questions and they have to answer for themselves. And then if they don't get it, then I will tell or play what it is I'm going for. But being a very good student And you can also make your teacher a better teacher by asking questions. So that is a fantastic question. Thank you for asking that. So be a good friend, be a good colleague, and be a great student, you know? Could we hear you play something for us? Well, I don't have my flute. Oh, look at that. The flute's right here. Okay. Okay. Well, we tested the microphone before, and I'm not ready for an impromptu, but I'll play just a little bit of the syrinx, WC syrinx. Every flute player knows. And so I haven't played that piece in so long. It feels really good. So I'm thinking as I'm playing it about when somebody asked about the story. And again, my answer was truthful. I'm thinking about the colors and the interpretation, the mood, the atmosphere, all that. So thank you for your request for that. That was my first live performance. You know what? So let me see. Which direction should I go? Can someone give me a little hint about which direction you'd like me to go? talking about the flute or talking about specific composers? Breathing. There's a good question. What advice do I give to students about breathing? One thing I find that is so intriguing in a very like questioning way, why don't we breathe? I hear many students play through something and then take a breath that I know is not going to carry them. So in other words, like it's just very shallow here, like that. That's not going to get us anywhere. And it's a wind instrument. It requires air. And it's the kind of breathing that is required for a flute player, because we don't have any resistance at all. What we have to do, we have to breathe and control the breath exactly like a singer, with our body, not with a mouthpiece. And this requires allowing your body to expand exactly the way you're breathing when you're very, very relaxed. Your body is open. You feel your ribs opening and breathing out, not up like that, because there's a lot of tension. I'm sure you've heard those words before, but the what I say is just breathe. I don't hear people breathing. And let's say you were to deduct, okay, if there's any swimmers out there, I love swimming. I love, love, love. And the water, I'm just definitely a water baby. When you take a breath and you go into the deep end, let's say you're diving or going into some deep water, you need enough air to go to the bottom, but then you need enough air to get to the top again. So you need to take in a little more breath. That's how I would describe it to students. Take in more than you think you're going to need. We need to breathe so deep all the time. It's an incredibly physical instrument. And if you think about how the singers breathe and sustain the air, you can see my hands are going out like this, my ribs going out, and my diaphragm and back, everything is moving out. And we have to take in a lot of air. And there's always more air that you can take in. I used to develop more expansion, I guess, more space for the air, because if you're just sitting back like this and taking in a breath, you're not going to get in nearly as much as if you just open up right away. If you just sit up straight, there we go. Get back to the posture for beginner students. And right away, your body has to be open. So none of the with your head over like this and your sit up, stand up, sit up straighter, because then right away you can fill up with more air. But bottom line is to breathe. You know what I do sometimes? When I'm teaching someone who's just not breathing, I ask them to, no, I force them. No, I ask. I request to play full sound, full everything. And then when the time comes to take their breath, I say, just stop for an extra second and breathe and go deeper with that breath. And then continue in the tempo. So in other words, there's a lot of time for each breath. This takes a little bit of patience, but you start to realize that you're breathing deeper. So this would be good exercise to do. Just stop where you're going to breathe. Just take in your regular air, but then go deeper than that. And you start realizing, oh, I really can get more air. I hope that helps. What bad habits do I commonly see in young players? Like band teachers to address early on? I imagine that you're saying band, you are the band teacher, or that you're the band, you like band teachers have bad habits. No, I understand. In young players, for band, this is something that is can be kind of complicated. I remember when I was in junior high school, or was it high school? Maybe both. And I was playing in band, and there are so many flute players and clarinet players. Well, the clarinet's great. They can sit really close to each other because their instrument is just up and down. The flute, we take up room. We take over. So when there are too many players, we have to sit on an angle, right? And then I remember there were times I had to put my arm over the back of the chair and play like this. And then we have to all line up. So this is a little bit of a detriment, but two things. If there could be even just 2 more inches, it's just a breath away of space with the chairs so that you're not sitting on top of each other. And then reminding them in not only the kindest way, but in a fun way. I think try to make some kind of a game out of it, that for the posture, because that is so easy to just fall, the diaphragm collapses and the posture is terrible. So I don't know. As a good band teacher, I think to do something and make it a game. Like, okay, whoever's flute goes below this, this line, or whoever, gets a bad posture, wins. No, has to play the oboe or clarinet. But let me see. I think it could be, no, see, that's really not good, because it was like whoever goes first with bad posture, that's a bad thing. We don't want that. We want to encourage it. So, I mean, there could be some sort of a prize or something for best posture in the rehearsal or something, something like that. I'm sorry, I don't think I was really ready for that question, but I hope it gives you some ideas. What are some good ways to quickly revive your flute embouchure after playing piccolo? This is true. It's all so much smaller for the piccolo. And so I just naturally, when I think of the piccolo with my face, I just think more about, opening up, stretching these muscles, and have some patience, because it is true when you're going back and forth from the piccolo to the flute. I mean, I know this to be true with professional people in orchestras. Many of my colleagues, it's not an easy thing to go back and forth, but it's important to keep both chops going and to just, I guess, get some rest of maybe 5 minutes between, or 10 minutes, and make sure that you're not squeezing, try and stay very, like on the flute, that you don't approach the flute the same way you're approaching the piccolo with the pursed. It has to be much smaller. So just think more open. Okay. And I think it's just a constant challenge going back and forth. So you do learn, you do build some muscle memory, some stamina with that, and keep at it. Should flute players learn to memorize? That's an interesting question. I know. Okay, let me just say first, I started playing everything by ear. was very natural on the flute, as I was not on the piano. And I picked up tunes. I had a very good ear, and I would just play things. So what I heard was just here. Most of my repertoire in my library is in here. For me, I just automatically memorized. I didn't work to do it. I just did. Now, I thought everybody did that. And when I was in my first year at Juilliard, everybody was commenting on it about you memorize. And I thought, honestly, everybody did it. So for me, I'm probably not a good example for that, because I just do. I like it because I don't like to have the music in front of me, and I like to just, I feel the fullest expression when I'm just playing from here. However, it's not expected of flute players. And I actually had a little issue about this myself just a couple of weeks ago, because, and I'm not going to say the place, I'm not going to say the what it was. It was just that memorization was required. From one piece was to be memorized by oboe players, and then everything was to be memorized by everybody else. Pianists, violinists, and that kind of got me a little bit. I said, I don't get it. I'm not trying to make things hard for everybody, but I thought flute players do not have any less memory capacity than any other instrument where they require. As a matter of fact, on piano and violin, it has to be memorized, and they've got like 4 lines to memorize and like 1 million more notes than we do. So, in answer to your question, I don't think there is a should that's involved. Coming from my perspective, I like to. I know that I've had students, when I've asked them to memorize something, they are paralyzed, like almost literally paralyzed. So I feel I've come to the conclusion that I can do what makes me comfortable, and you can do what makes you comfortable. So if you want to play with music, great. I don't think it matters at all about memorizing or playing with the music when you're on stage, because when you're in the music, you're just playing the music. So it's about playing a great performance, not about whether it's memorized or not. It's always good to have it memorized, but that's not something, many professionals play with the music. All right. What is my approach to a Baroque piece, for example, a Telemann fantasy versus a romantic piece like Reinecke Ballade? First of all, I remember, again, not long ago, writing a comment that the Bach that I was listening to this person had a really beautiful tone. And I said, and it's perfect for Mozart or Reinecke, but not for Bach. So when talking about sound, when we're approaching a piece in the Baroque era, we need to do something that's more thinking more about the air than the tone. So what we do, if I'm thinking in Reinecke, approaching that piece, it's totally not appropriate. So they are totally different approaches. Air in the Baroque. So pushing the air. Think about I'm not saying, like, we have these beautiful instruments in this day and age. We have these gorgeous Haynes flutes in this day and age. So they didn't have this gold instrument back in that time, but we have to we have to just kind of try and channel what they were playing and how the sounds were produced. And when you think about a wooden flute that they had, not even this, a lip plate, but it was just the wood and a hole here. So if you think about blowing over a pop bottle, right? Have we all tried that? Maybe it was just me while I was waiting for the bus for school in Calgary. Just blowing air across the, that kind of feeling. There's no, it's all rounded, the top, and there's absolutely no resistance. It just goes. So that's what I'm talking about with air in the Baroque music. Thinking more about pushing the air into the instrument than doing something that we are capable of doing. But again, they didn't have the Romantic era at that time. So that's why I just want to just say quickly too, that for competitions, auditions, everything like that, that's why they always ask for contrasting pieces. Some Baroque, some classical, some Romantic or contemporary, whatever it might be. And this is to hear if someone is aware of the difference in the styles, because that's a big thing in education, in being educated about the different styles. We just should not, cannot, and should not, music like integrity-wise, play something with a Reinecke sound, very romantic, lush, dark, rich, or French music, or Prokofiev sonata. We just should not be playing Baroque music even close to that kind of era. So there's a lot we have to take out, but there's a lot that you gain from that. I mean, there's a lot you have to take out, such as vibrato, edgy tone, that kind of thing, you know, and just sort of try and have a clean slate. Just approach the flute and blow and see what comes of that. Just think about that style. So what exercises do I recommend for strengthening your right pinky? Oh my goodness. That's another, believe it or not, that's another topic that I have on one of my masterclass series. So if you're at all interested, check it out on my website, susanhoeppner.com. The masterclass series is there. And I have a whole, excuse me, a whole class dedicated to the pinky, because we don't pay enough attention to it. And what we do is end up having a very sore pinky. And there's tension, lots of tension. And, excuse me. And what we need to do is think more about placing our fingers over the keys, placing them over, not gripping the flute, but by curving them and trying in the low register, going back and forth. I'll have this so you have my foot joint in the screen. Whoopsie, overshot that one. But what I'm doing with this is a very slow, methodical approach to the foot joint, and I am doing very slow intervals and concentrating on keeping my pinky curved. You know, touching more the tip than the cushy part of the end of the finger here. Because what happens is you have the weight of the finger on the foot joint when you're like that. But if you're like this, that you have a different agility with the finger. Also, if you can think of the pinky as a little bit separate from your other three fingers, it's got a job to do. It's right over here in the foot joint. So if you can maybe, even try this as a little bit of a exercise in front of the mirror or something, and just get that finger like looking like a worm. It looks like a worm. But think about you're covering the keys here, curved fingers, and then that you can move this finger independently of the other fingers. Okay, that'll help. And don't do it too much in a day, like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, something like that. But each day you're going to be so much better. And come to my class if you want to learn more about that too. I'm a novice. Any recommendations on how to make high notes not sound pinched? Absolutely. I'm sure you have heard the words before many times. Relax. Relax into the high register. And what does that mean? It means you literally need to stop everything you're doing. Relax. Put your instrument up and blow the air. We don't want to have a squeezed embouchure like this because the air is trying to get out, but it can't. I'm really squeezing the lips, and you hear how it interrupts the air. The sound can't stay consistent. So go into those high notes with your air. Like that. And it's just really keeping everything open here. Drop your tongue. Ha, 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 and let the air come out. This is really hard to say, like to the screen, to myself, and not see how someone else is doing it. I could help you better with that than with just the words, but I hope that has some, forgive the pun, resonance with you. But just think about dropping the tongue and getting the tongue out of the weight of the air, and not just have your, I don't want it just like that. We have to have some firmness in the embouchure, but there's a lot of squeezing. So let's just relax it a bit. Drop the tongue, let the air come out. I hope that helps. Do you have any advice for other woodwind players who double on the flute? Advice? Do you have advice for me? I only play one instrument. That's pretty good that you do that. I'm not sure which instrument you're talking about, but if you are able to identify that instrument, that could give me an idea of how to answer this better. But for woodwind players who double on flute, so it's probably saxophone or clarinet or something. So it's a reed instrument, and I think, you know what? There is no way to compare them. There just isn't. The flute is a creature unto itself because it has absolutely no mouthpiece. So our mouth is our mouthpiece, and saxophone. So I think these instruments actually are, I think, very compatible, flute and saxophone. Fingerings apparently are the same. I tried a saxophone one time. My reaction when I played, it was just, whoa, it tickled my lips like crazy. So I guess you have to develop some, your sax lips and then your flute lips. But I think maybe just like I was talking about with the flute and piccolo before, maybe just focusing on the one and then just giving yourself a little bit of time to get into the other instrument when you're going back and forth. How does one learn to play low tones more loudly? Well, believe it or not, it's not about what we think it is, which we tense more with the embouchure. If we tense more, we're going to get more sound. And the fact is that the more you relax, like, again, it's dropping the tongue and getting it out of the way. The more you drop it and you just stay relaxed, I'm saying with firmness, not completely relaxed and unfocused. I can't get that's like blowing on a pop bottle. So we need to have some firmness in the embouchure, but just not tight. So you start on a low G, go down chromatically or something to the next note. Try and match them with the open sound. Our tendency is wanting to bite down on the F. Listen to how that sounds. Do you hear how I'm hoping over this platform you can hear the difference in the sound. It's more metallic. I'm squeezing the life out of the sound, thinking that I'm going to get a bigger sound. But if I just stay as nice and open and relaxed as on the G, then to the F. Sustain that note, then start on the F, go to the E, and keep the same relaxation and openness. And sustain that note. You'll find you're going to find you're a different flute player when you do that. It's going to be like a whole new world of sound will be opened up to you because you're actually letting the air out. Just so many times there's squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Notes are the air squeezed out of them and they won't speak. And that gets us frustrated. So we squeeze more to play quieter. Moral of this story, when I'm talking about the air with the flute, in the low register and the high register. Open. Open. Think of that beginning of a yawn, how the tongue just goes down. Okay? Another big question. Okay, so, and also, how does one learn to play the low tones more loudly? Like I was suggesting, and just keep going down and then go up, but always keeping open. And every day. Every day. You need to get the sense of how to trust that the sound is going to be there. Is it important for flute players to imitate different flutists, learn their tone colors, and use those colors on different pieces? Galway for romantic pieces and Paoud for Baroque classical. I think I don't really use the word imitate. I think if there's something you like about someone's playing, we need to learn how to access that kind of a sound and to maybe emulate it more. But to try and imitate exactly and sound like that player, that's going to be counterproductive because, again, finding your own voice. That's what is going to serve you the best. You're going to appreciate sounds and tone colors in other people's playing and like them and try to emulate them. Try and say, how do they do that? But then, keep what you like from people's playing, and then not the other. But no, I would say my opinion would be not to imitate. Just try and find the quality, the way you sound, but to find the quality that you like about their playing. What is it? Is it deeper resonance? Is it more open, full sound? Is it the vibrato? What is it? So you don't want to sound like a Galway. There's already a Galway. You don't want to sound like a Poud. Well, maybe we do want to, but there is a Poud, but there's only one of you. I sound like me. And I've listened to so many people in the past too, but not only flute players. May I please just remind you to listen to other instruments. Please listen to pianists. And there's someone I really want to recommend. She makes me melt. Marta Argerich, the pianist. Absolutely breathtaking every time I hear her play. Glenn Gould, when he his recordings, when he played the Bach Goldberg variations or anything else. String players, Nadja Salerno Sonnenberg is like an electric violinist, and Hilary Hahn, another violinist, and cello. I mean, so I listen to, like, one of my favorite instruments is viola. Between the cello and the violin, I love that middle range in the voice, and it's that quality of the viola sound that I aim to get in my flute. I love that quality of sound, of resonance, of darkness, of depth. So I hope that helps. That was a very long-winded answer. Breathe. Remember to breathe. What do you think make the difference between a musician and an artist? Well, I think a musician is an artist. The differences would be between a musician or artist and instrument player, like flute player, clarinet player, piano player. We all have chosen a different instrument, and to be the best musician or artist that you can. I don't think there's any difference. Personally, I don't think there's any difference between a musician and a musician is an artist. An artist is a musician. And so we all want to be the best at our instrument. We chose the flute, or whatever instrument we chose. We chose that, and we have to become a great flute player. But going beyond that, that's where we want to be. We want to elevate, and we want to make sure that we be the best we can be on our instrument, but then think about the music. So many things we have to work out with this. Your questions, all your questions are just fantastic. Thank you. Do you have any advice for anyone playing Voliere from Carnival of the Animals? It's so fast. It's so fast. I think the advice is just, it's got to be practiced fast and then faster, and pushing the boundaries for yourself, because that's when it's very easy to get comfortable at a slower tempo, thinking that, oh, that sounds fast. But it needs to be brilliant flash. It's just, sorry, the only answer I have for that one is really lots of practice. Lots of practice. I remember Julius Baker. I studied with him at Juilliard, and I remember he worked on that before he recorded it, or was it recorded? No. Before he played it with New York Phil, he practiced it for months, very slowly and methodically, and then getting faster and faster over time, which requires a lot of patience. But it's like if you're playing every single note, every single time, and you go just a little bit faster, it's rewarding because you hear at a faster tempo every single note. So I'm sorry, just practice, lots of it. When I play the C above the staff, it doesn't always sound very nice. It sometimes sounds flat or off. How can I get a better tone on this note? On the C, the C above the staff, so I'm imagining it's the second octave. So if we're talking this note, I know you all have heard this from many teachers in the past too, but it's a support. And I'm not just talking about the air. I'm also talking about supporting. If I don't do anything with my position, my mouth position, this is what happens. The air is going in exactly the same direction as the lower register. The air needs to be in a different direction for the higher register. And then the air needs to be in a different position for the highest register. Okay, so try that. Just and see how that helps. It's not about more air. It's about just, it will sound much easier if it's in the right direction. Think about your direction of the air. Am I directing it too far down? It's going to be really hard to lift it. I'm just blowing my air for that low register, but the register above that, it requires a little bit of a different position. Okay? Try to think about that. I'm a novice learning the flute at 65. Ah, good for you. After playing for a while, my vocal cords are sore. Your vocal cords. Are you singing while you're playing? Is this normal? I think, now that's an interesting question. I think that when you're talking about any kind of recognition of the vocal cords, there must be some kind of restriction in here, because anytime to get ha sound, things have to move in our throat, in our tongue, with our tongue position, strangling the air like that. So if thinking about, there are times when we sing and play. That's for specific music. There shouldn't be any voice sound when we're playing the flute. So if there is any voice sound in there, I think there's a little tightness in there. So maybe think a little more. I would have to see and hear you. But so this is not an easy answer to give just with the question, but I would encourage you first to think about dropping the tongue. Again, keeping a really nice open cavity here and blowing the air. That might help get rid of some of that sound, because your vocal cord is sore. That should not be. So, any suggestions for playing the high E? So often it doesn't want to speak. Oh, but it does. It really wants to speak. If we were in a class face to face, or even over Zoom, I'd be asking you, well, what are you doing? Are you letting the air out, or are you holding it back? Again, you're learning my tricks. tricks, so-called tricks about open sound, dropping the tongue. If I squeeze, it all comes back to the same thing that we do. We do the same mistakes or the same approach. So what I'm doing is I'm squeezing, and for the life of me, I can't get that high E because it's going higher. I'm overblowing. I'm just, first of all, it's much too small and squeezed. And that high E needs resonance. It needs depth, and it has that. And it wants to show you that it's there. Hey, it's a great note. So what I'd suggest actually is to play at the D. The D is an easy, good note to come out. And then try and match your E to that D and thinking about keeping everything really open on, again, the tongue, the yawn. We squeeze. And it's a habit. And we think to play quietly, we have to do that. But if you were to just try, if you all just try about breathing, staying open, dropping the tongue, and blowing your air. It's going to be another world of sound for you. So my tongue sometimes gets tired after playing. What do I do about that? Well, the tongue needs practice for stamina, endurance. It's a very, very strong muscle. And we need to focus a little bit on the tonguing, right? For some piece that you're playing. But too much of it, and you'll feel like your tongue is like lead. And so be wise about your practice with this. Keep it short and sweet with your articulation. Focused on your articulation, but a short amount of time. 3 minutes, maybe on some articulation, some double tonguing or single tonguing or whatever. But you need to build the muscles in here. Just get the tongue so strong that it goes forward is easy, right? To k. You get more understanding of the back of the tongue. To k, to k, to k, to k, to k, to k, to k. And you can practice this without the instrument. You can practice articulation, like I did, walking to the bus stop in Calgary School. And you can just get some endurance and build strength in it like that. So again, comes back to practice. So I think we're probably going to this might be one of our last questions. I really appreciate your questions. That's fantastic. You guys you're really targeting some very important issues. Should we articulate the high registers and low registers differently? Different syllables. The opening of Khachaturian and Voliere are quite different. Should I treat them differently? Well, they obviously are two very different octaves, but yes, because the Khachaturian on the low D is very different, such as even like the Jolove Chantalinos in one section. Da, 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 da. That one. And then with the Khachaturian, like it has to be so totally open and relaxed in there so that you can get that sound out of the low D. So everything couldn't be more open in my throat. Now, the Voliere, it's a very dry, very fast articulation. So I would say yes, they are definitely a different approach. But you know, when it comes right down to it, you don't need me to give you instruction on, like, well, first of all, I don't think that way or teach that way. With you place the tongue here, you place the tongue there. All I'm thinking about, what I discovered was that you get the tongue out of the way, the air can come out, and it makes everything sound better. How's that for a technical recap? So yes, like, in other words, we need to use our ears, and we don't need me to tell you, okay, you need to place the tongue here, but the tongue there, we learn we have to maybe bring it back a little bit too. Always down, but back. Really put me on the spot here with this one, but totally different position for both registers and pieces. So, is there one last question? Is there someone that really wants to know about the high C sharp or something fortissimo or something like that? Okay, I really appreciate your attention in this and your interest, and thank you to Haynes Flutes for making this possible, and Adam Stockholm with Long and McQuaid, Patricia Didnansky. Thank you very much for inviting me to do this tonight. I appreciate the opportunity. So everybody, just go practice. Remember, drop the tongue, relax.